Welcome to the RPO College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jerome Jones. I got my guy, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ray Rogers, with me today. How you doing today, Ray?
I'm good, Jerome. How are you?
I'm good, man. We are days away from college football. I'm super excited. I'm so excited that I extremely forgot that it was this weekend. So I just got super excited about this, Ray. How are you feeling knowing that today's Wednesday, so I'm breaking the fourth wall if you're watching later. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days away, man. How you feeling? How you feeling right
I
now?
feel good, man. I'm excited. I wish
Good.
there were more games this weekend, but we'll start with these again just to get our mouth wet, So
Yeah, definitely. And as you guys as Ray said, we only have a few games this week, but hey, that's five. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games this weekend. Not the greatest games, and we're gonna get into that a little bit later, but it's still college football. Just to get our feet wet, just to get a little taste and glimpse and get ready for the craziness of the entire college football landscape. I'm super excited about it because you know what? Each year with college football, there's such a big turnover, in my opinion, different from the NFL. Because you got so many younger guys, you got, the next freshman class that's coming up. You got people that's transferring now because you got this big transferring portal now. And it's not like trading; it's like a transfer portal, so they could do it whenever they want. So, tons of players transfer. Players go to the NFL draft. Players just, some players get injured. Things like that, and we get such a different atmosphere. Like, for instance, this year, all of the top teams that we're always talking about are coming into the season with new quarterbacks. It's just crazy. Like, I don't think this is one of the first times I've ever seen something like that.
Except Oklahoma.
Except Oklahoma. You all read about that. They do have a quarterback, but Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, all coming in with new quarterbacks, and I think it's very exciting to see that right now. And I'm super excited to see that as well, Ray. I thought you had something to say. All right, let's get into our first thing that we're gonna talk about then, and that's gonna be talking about the top 5. I'm sorry, I say top 5. I'm still in top 5. I'm still in the list mode right now, guys. But we're gonna talk about every team that we expect to win the conference in the Power 5 right now. So we're gonna go through each one of these conferences and kind of go through all the teams, and then me and Ray is gonna pick our winners for each conference. So right now we're gonna start off with the American Athletic Conference right now. So American Athletic, if you're not familiar with them, they have some teams over there. Not the most sexiest names of teams, but we're gonna get through them. We got Cincinnati, we got East Carolina, we got Houston, we got Memphis, we got Navy, we got SMU, we got South Florida, we got Temple, Tulane, Tulsa, and USC. So, Ray, out of that conference, who do you believe will be the conference champion at the end of the year?
I thought you said ACC.
The American Athletic Conference. That's what I said. The AAC.
The AAC. Okay. I'm sorry, Drum. I'm lost here now.
No, you're good.
Let me find it.
Gotcha. So while he's doing that, I'll give you my favorite. So, like you said, I think the consensus is right now is Cincinnati. I'm gonna actually go with Cincinnati, but there's some teams in here that I think will compete for that number one, like at SMU, a team that had a really good year last year. They could be poised to have another good year. They lost their starting quarterback, Bruchelle, to the NFL, I believe. So We're gonna see how they do with the new quarterback there, but I think the team that have a consistency as far as who should win will be, in my opinion, Cincinnati, because they're coming back with, um, I believe, what's his name,
Desmond Ritter.
Desmond Ritter.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very athletic quarterback that showed a lot of promise last year, and I think he's going to lead the charge. Ray, do you agree with that, or do you see somebody else maybe taking the reins?
No, I see Cincinnati as the best team. UCF is usually pretty competitive.
Yeah,
I think SMU will be solid, and Memphis, of course, is an offensive juggernaut usually, and Tulsa's a defensive juggernaut usually.
yeah,
So they'll probably be the top five. They'll compete for the conference, but I think in the end, Cincinnati will probably win. I do.
yeah. I think it's most people think it's Cincinnati's year to win the AAC and go about from winning that one. Um, Again, this is a conference that don't have a division, so it's just like one straight conference, and we're going straight through that. So, any surprise team in there though that you think might sneak up on people or might have a better year than most people will think?
Um, I'm hoping that Temple does, but I don't think they will. No, I think that them
Temple
three
keep
top
losing.
teams will
Temple
use.
Temple keep losing
I'm going to
some.
say Memphis. Memphis usually has a good offensive team. Maybe they surprise somebody and finish first or second, but I don't think so.
Definitely. Yeah. I think, like you say, UCF. Well, I think they might have a better year than most people think they will.
Yeah.
They got the quarterback. I'm forgetting his name too. Um, oh man, hold on, let me look it up right here. Um, Dylan
Dylan
Gabriel. Dylan
Gabriel. Yeah.
Gabriel. Yeah, a guy that has some upside to him. He's not the most polished quarterback, but he got some upside to him. The team seemed to want to rally around him. I think that there might be a team that might be a slightly better than people would think. So that might be a team that you want to look at with that conference. That conference, yeah. Um, any other suggestions on that, or
No, that's pretty much it, Jerome. I don't think. I think Cincinnati's probably the best team in this conference, but
correct?
we'll see. I'm sure somebody will shake out and surprise us.
Definitely. I feel like there's always a team in that conference that winds up being a little bit better than we always expect. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to our next conference. We're going to talk about the ACC now.
Okay.
We're going to start with the Atlantic division, and then we're going to go to the Coastal division. So let's start off with the Atlantic division. They have Boston College, they got Clemson, they got Florida State, they got Louisville, NC State, Syracuse, and Wake Forest. So out of those teams, kind of think it's obvious, but who do you think will win that conference?
I think Clemson will win the conference.
Yeah.
The Atlantic part of it, I think Clemson will definitely win. I think the coastal part of it is going to be between Miami and North Carolina. I think North Carolina will probably win because they're a better coach team. Miami's probably has more athletes, but they don't always show it on a consistent basis. So,
So if you guys don't know, Coastal has Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and Virginia Tech. So Ray already picked his guys. He said UNC. I'm gonna agree with him with that. All right. So what teams in both conferences do you think will? I'm sorry, each division do you think will be like a surprise team? So I'll pick one from the Atlantic and one from Coastal.
well, I'm going to pick Florida State from the Atlantic
Mm-hmm.
again because athletically they're a good team. They just don't always put it on the field on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
In the coastal, I'm going to go Virginia. I like Virginia's defense. I think they're a solid defensive team.
Okay. So for me, I'm gonna say in Atlantic, the surprise team for me. might be uh so like for me right now, I'm kind of stuck between Florida State and Louisville, to be honest. Um, but I am gonna say Florida State as well. I think Louisville can be a good team. They need some work, and this is why they're a surprise team, not a good team, or a team that's going to be even close to Clemson. Like Clemson's going to run away with this. I promise you that. I think DJ Ugalele, maybe.
Yeah,
I think he's going to be a phenomenal. I've been saying this all offseason. I think he's going to be a phenomenal quarterback. I have him in my MVP race for this conference or Heisman race, I believe I meant to say. Um, in this, and I really think that he's going to be one of those guys that kind of sneak on people because everybody's so like in tune with Trevor Lawrence. I think this kid is a big body guy that have a strong arm and very accurate, and he's played very well in the absence of Trevor Lawrence last year. I think he's going to continue that this year. I'm really high on DJ this year. I know I've been saying that all off season. For the Coastal, I'm going to say Virginia Tech actually. Virginia Tech always have that good, really good defense. I believe their quarterback name is Braxton Burmeister. I think he's going to really come in and make a difference on our offense a little bit more than last year quarterback. And I think that he's going to help. He's not the missing piece or anything like that, but he's going to help them be a little bit more improved than the last few years. And I think that's a team that could really sneak on people. They have been kind of sneaking on people a little bit each year, the last couple of years as well. So, what do you think about that, Ray?
I mean, I think Virginia Tech is another team that they have good athletes. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't always put it consistently on the field,
Yeah.
so it worries me a little bit. I think honestly, I like De'Ara Kane a lot with Miami. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't like their defense because they don't play well together. So,
Yeah.
but I think Virginia Tech, kind of like Florida State, and Miami, they're easy teams to pick because you look and you see athletes on the field at all levels.
Yeah.
You're just kind of waiting for them to like be more consistent with it. It doesn't seem like I'm tired of waiting for it, man. We've been talking about it for 3 years now,
Yeah.
and they haven't really done it on the field yet. So, but
It
you
seemed like
look
every
athletically,
year.
they have players. So,
Oh yeah. It seemed like every year it's just like Miami and Florida State. Like we're always trying to make them better than they are because they have such a great history and they always have talent on their team. But it's like for some reason you just can't like put it together.
I mean,
It's kind
the
of
other
weird.
thing is, if you like, I don't live in Florida, but I know people who do, and college football in Florida is huge, man. And these fans are really starting. I think they're starting to get a little frustrated now because, I mean, let's face it, they're used to Miami and Florida State being good, and
Yeah.
they're getting to be to the point where they're not even relevant right now. So
Hmm.
we'll see, man. You know,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, let's move on to the next conference. So we're gonna talk about one of my favorite conferences. Obviously, would be the Big Ten. There's a certain reason why that is my favorite, one of my favorite conferences, but we're really gonna get too into that. So, we're gonna talk about the East and we're gonna talk about the West. So, the East has Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, boo, Ohio State, boo, Penn State, and Rutgers. And in the West, we have Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin. So out of those two conferences, Ray, who are you picking out of the two conferences that will win each one?
well, obviously, I Ohio State, and I'm going to go Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. And that's my exact two picks as well. As much as I hate Ohio State, these guys are probably the second coming of Alabama when it comes to recruiting. They've been killing it the last few years. They always replenish players. They got like three of the top top receivers in 2000. I think it's 2019
Yeah.
draft class. Two of the top receivers, top five receivers. Like insane. Um, so they always replenishing. You got guys that transfer that to their. Usually hear players getting transferred out of teams. They get transfers to their team. As you already know, the young quarterback, his name's slipping my mind. Ewers, who was the top recruit this year, is attending Ohio State a year early. That's a whole story in itself. But it's just crazy how they just oh, next cycle, just like Alabama, just like Clemson. These are teams, the powerhouse teams that are going to be at the top almost every year. And then you got Wisconsin, a team that is hard nosed team, a team that's going to run it down your mouth, down your throat half the time with a really stout offensive line and really gritty, a really gritty team. And I think that their quarterback in Marks is going to be a little bit better than some of their typical type of quarterbacks that they had there in recent years. What do you think about him real quick, Ray?
I like Graham Mertz. I think he's a good quarterback. I think that Wisconsin is that team that they're physical enough to play with anybody. Yeah. They're just not athletic enough to play with Ohio State. So, But they'll be the second team in that conference, and they'll probably lose Ohio State by like 30.
Definitely. All right, so give me two surprise teams out of both conferences.
Can I say Indiana? I mean, are they going to be a surprise after last year? I think people think that they're an up-and-coming type team, but I'm going to go Indiana. Mm-hmm. I think that I would love to say that Michigan or even Penn State was going to be, or Rutgers was going to be that team, but until Jim Harbaugh shows me I'm out on Michigan, I can't go there, man. Yeah. I just can't. So I think Penn State is a talented team, but they're another team that they don't seem to always play to the level of their talent. Yeah. And in the West, I would go Northwestern. I like Northwestern. I think they're a good, fundamentally sound football team, and capable of beating everybody because they're well coached. So
and we just recently got done talking about Northwestern as a team that that is always in the mix with their team because they're so well coached. These kids are very smart and intelligent players. And they're always in the mix to be a surprise team. I'm going to agree with you with Indiana. I would love to say Penn State because that was actually one of the teams I was really thinking about saying. Michigan, I think that we're too young at quarterback, and we got to figure out what we're going to do with the coaching, to be honest. But I was going to say Penn State, but looking at the quarterback, Clifford, I'm not a big fan of him, to be honest. I think that he is very inconsistent in a lot of aspects. And I think as long as he's the starter right now, I just think that, with all the talent on their defense and everything like that, I still think it's just not enough for their offense to kind of get it together. And as far as the West, I'm going to say Iowa. I think Iowa's one of those teams, like sort of like Northwestern. They are a gritty team, and they kind of similar to Wisconsin as well, like that run down your throat, good offense kind of team. I think they're a team that can definitely surprise. What do you think about that, Ray?
I agree with you. I think Iowa's a good physical football team. Love Tyler Goodson, their running back, very good football player. I just worry about that their quarterback can be good enough. Spencer Pratis is their quarterback. I'm just not sure if he's good enough to elevate them to compete for the conference. I think they'll be okay against Wisconsin in the West, but again, I think Indiana and Ohio State may be the two best teams in this conference, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with that, right? And um, as always, I love the Big Ten. It's always fun to watch them because we always beat up on each other. Each year, you never see it like you always see some kind of upset or something like that within this conference. So one of my favorite conferences to look at, obviously SEC is everybody's favorite because they got the most talent. Let's just be honest with that. But the Big Ten is really fun to see because they're. I mean, obviously, outside of Ohio State, I think a lot of the teams are really more close neck in the conference than most conferences, in my opinion.
You're right. With this whole thing about the Big East and the Pac-12 or about them merging, does that tell everybody what they know about how much the SEC is above everybody else right now?
Oh yeah, especially with them, getting Texas and what's the team, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
I see SEC grabbing those two. Don't move the needle that much for me, in my opinion.
It does, though, when you think about recruiting wise, because a lot of good players come from Texas, a lot of good players come from Oklahoma, and now you're going to have them, and you throw them in the mix with all them SEC teams. Yeah. That does cover a lot of ground.
I give you that. I definitely give you that. I just think that, I mean, you're right. It might be a couple of years down the road, and then you're going to say, oh, yeah, there's starting to be a lot more of a powerhouse team, more powerhouse-like teams that, staple name teams. But I think just early on, it's just going to be a kind of a struggle. And you're right. The recruiting is definitely going to be a lot better for them. So
I think that's the only reason they did it. Because honestly, Texas is going to go from a team that was, going to be able to compete in their conference to, honestly, in the SEC, they're a mid-level team right now.
Right, definitely. And speaking of Texas, Oklahoma, they are still currently in the Big 12. They're going to be at SEC in 2025, I believe. So we got some time to figure all that out and how speculate all that. But they're still in the Big 12. So as of right now, the Big 12 currently has Baylor, Iowa State. They got Kansas State, Oklahoma, TCU, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. So out of those teams, Ray, who is winning this conference?
Oklahoma.
Easy.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not really
Oklahoma in this conference, it's equivalent to Ohio State and the Big 12.
It's very comparable to what Clemson is in the ACC.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, there's other good teams, but there's that one team. I don't want to say Ohio State is that dominant in the Big Ten. They are right now, but they haven't been. Where Oklahoma has pretty much been, it's always been them in Texas for the last, since I was a kid. I mean, you do see some other teams come up and take a bite out of the. Take a shot at the conference every once in a while, but Oklahoma, and because like when we get into top 5 later on, I don't know if we're going to do that today, if we're going to do that another week probably. Oklahoma is the one team, like we talked about earlier, they have their starting quarterback from last year.
Yeah.
And they have a good starting quarterback from last year. So that's why I think they're going to be in the national title picture all year. So
I agree. So yeah, I agree that Oklahoma is that team right now. They got the fancy coach and Riley Lincoln Riley. Sorry,
Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley. I just realized he's got 2 last names. But anyway, Lincoln Riley. And as their coach, they got Spencer Rattler, who we talked about throughout the offseason. Started off the year kind of shaky, got benched, and then played out his mind since then. And I think he's going to continue that this year. There's no even team that's even close to this. I mean,
there's not really.
Like I say, it's like looking at Ohio State. Who's going to beat Ohio State? Nobody. Who's going to beat Clemson? Nobody. So it's like there's always that one dominant team in each conference. That will be Oklahoma State, the Oklahoma Sooners in this one. But right, who do you think will be some surprise team in this conference this year?
I like
We got
I
some good
like
team names right there.
I like TCU.
Really.
I like their coach Gary Patterson,
Uh-huh.
bringing back 18 starters, 9 on both sides of the ball from last year. I think that I don't think they're the most talented team, but I think
Mhm.
they may be the best coach team after Oklahoma, and I think they'll be up there in the mix.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna go with I say Iowa for the Big Ten. I'm gonna go with Iowa State in this one. And it's really gonna come down to the quarterback. What do you
Brock
call it?
Purdy.
Brad Purdy. I think like me and Ray said before, and we keep saying this, his inconsistencies during that year were very bad. He had a lot of highs and lows. It wasn't like, he had a high for a minute and then he got low. It was literally high, low, high, low, high, low. I want to see him just stay high, even if it's not consistent, or maybe he might just teeter up to being higher, higher. I just want to see him stay on a higher end than the lower end, because when he was low, he was pretty low, and it dragged down the team significantly. Having a very talented team, I think their defense is going to be better. Obviously, they got Charlie Kohler as their tight end, their top target. I think he's going to have a great year. I just want to see this team stay a little bit more consistent, and it starts with quarterback.
I agree. I just think that if I had faith that Brock Purdy would play consistently, I may go with them,
Yeah,
but I don't. So
correct. And at one point, we were talking about him in the draft process.
we were
We
last year.
were.
This time last year, people were saying Brock Purdy could be a first round pick in 2023 drafts. Now they're wondering if he'll be drafted at all.
Exactly, exactly. And having those inconsistencies, he has a chance to prove everybody wrong
He
and
does,
get back
and the
in that
kids.
conversation. And he can, I believe he can get in that conversation very fast, but he just got to show it first.
I I agree. I think that for one, he plays a position where they're always looking for the next gem,
Uh-huh.
and he does have like 2 years ago he was really good.
Yeah.
Last year he was inconsistent. He regressed a little bit, but
Mhm.
if he comes back to form and shows some stuff and competes for a conference in a team with Oklahoma, with a team like Oklahoma in the conference with him, maybe he can elevate himself back into that first round status as a player. I just don't see it right now. I
I
don't.
agree.
So
I agree. All right. You want to do Conference USA?
you got it.
All right. Here we go. Let's get to the Conference USA. All right. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So we got the East and West one, Conference USA. They have Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, FIU. They have Marshall, Middle Tennessee, Old Dominion, and Western Kentucky for the East. And for the West, they got uh, Louisiana Tech, North Texas Rice, Southern Miss, UAB, UTSA, and UTEP. So, Ray, in the East and in the West, who's going to win each conference?
Hold on one second, Jerome.
Or
Trying to find it on I have it in my notes here, but I'm trying to find it right now.
Handy Danny Newts.
Yes, I if I don't have them,
Yeah. So,
just
all right.
yeah.
I can start off while you're waiting.
Yeah.
So this the East, there's 3 teams, maybe even 4, that I'm thinking are very close to each other. You could take out Charlotte, you could take out West Kentucky, and you got to take out Old Dominion. In my opinion, could change, but you never know. But there's always Florida Atlantic, FIU, Marshall, and Middle Tennessee. And I'm gonna say Marshall right now because they had a really good team. They lost a couple of key seniors, especially on the defense. But I think they're gonna start continuing what they had last year. I think I'm gonna give it to Marshall again. They were a very surprising team last year to me. I think they teetered off a little bit at the end of the season, but I think that they have the team still to make a difference. Ray, what do you think?
I agree with you. I think Marshall and Florida Atlantic will be the two teams that battle it out in the East. I think
Yeah.
Louisiana Tech and UAB will be in the West.
Mhm.
I don't like any. I don't think there's a lot of ton of talent on any of these teams. I think Marshall is probably the most consistent team coming from last year. Where they came from,
Yeah.
but I don't. It's a tough conference to get behind because there's a lot. There's really not a lot of talent. I like Louisiana Tech. I like UAB, and I like Marshall and Florida Atlantic. The other teams, eh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then for me in the West, I think I'm gonna go with Louisiana Tech. I want to see them continue what they did last year. I think North Texas is another team that played very well last year. Is going to be up there. I'm always kind of looking at Southern Miss. They always bring up. They always produce one or two NFL players, and they wind up being really good for some reason.
Mhm.
Um, I think that that's a team that I always like to look at. But what do you think about the West, Ray?
I think that, like again, Louisiana Tech will probably win it. I think UAB is a good, solid team.
Yeah.
Cornerback Sterling Thomas is a really good football player.
Hmm.
Their defense is pretty solid.
Yep.
Again, but UTSA, Southern Mississippi, not a lot going on there. Rice, of course, North Texas, UTEP. I just think it's really you have four solid teams in this conference, and everything else is like just mumble.
Definitely. Definitely. So surprise teams.
Um, you know what? I'm going to go UTSA only because I like Severe McCormick,
Hmm.
their offensive player. I just think that he could be a difference maker for them. But if I had to pick one sleeper team, it would be that team.
Actually, that's a really good super team. I already mentioned mine. So I would think North Texas is a team. They have some good talent that a lot of people don't know about, and I think that they were on a positive trajectory last year, and I think they're going to continue that this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to because we gotta speed it up just a little bit. We're gonna get to the Mountain West. So in the Mountain West, we have Mountain West. All right. So and they have the two parts of the conference, obviously, Mountain and West. Go figure. They have Air in Mountain. They have Air Force, Boise State, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah State, and Wyoming. And in the West, they have um, Fresno State, Hawaii, Nevada, um, San Diego State, San Jose State, and UNLV. So Ray, out of the West and East, who is going to win each division?
Well, I'm going to go out of the West. I'm going to go Nevada, mostly
Hmm.
because I love Carson Strong, their quarterback. But I think they're the best team in that part of the conference. I'm going to go Boise State. I mean,
Hmm.
again, they're a team that usually competes every year for that conference, so I believe in them. So
Yeah, 100% agree with both. And for both reasons, I think the same thing as both. Do you have a sleeper for either one of those?
a sleeper.
Well, maybe not sleeper, but a surprise team. There you go.
Um, just trying to read some of my notes here. I'm going to go Wyoming. Wyoming could be like a sleeper team for somebody. If you sleep on them, maybe they can do some stuff. I mean, I always like the cadets, the Air Forces, but I don't see them as doing anything this year. I'll
Yeah,
go Wyoming. I like Wyoming.
definitely. I agree with that. I was kind of looking at Utah State as well. It might be a team that's sneaking there, but I definitely agree with Wyoming. For the other conference, Fresno State and UNLV are two teams that I
Mhm.
always think competes in that division as well. So I'm gonna say UNLV probably a little bit more. We think in that conference, right?
I think UNLV is a team that's still building. They
Yeah.
do have a good run. They play really good run defense on that team. and they run the ball well. But I just don't believe that anybody's going to be able to beat Nevada. I think San Diego State is not a bad team. I think they're a solid team. I don't know. I mean, I hate to say that I'm already looking at lines. Fresno State is a 27-point favor against the Connecticut. So they must be doing something right in Fresno State, you know?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. All right, let's move along to the next conference, and that's going to be the Big 12. All right, so in the Big 12, we have two conferences. Two divisions as well. We have Cal, we have Oregon, we have Oregon State, we have Stanford, Washington, and Washington State. And in the South, we have Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, UCLA, USC, and Utah. So, out of both, who's going to win for you, Ray?
Well, I'm going to go Oregon in the North because it's usually Oregon or Stanford or Washington in that Northern Conference or the northern part of the conference. But I'm going to go Oregon. They're a higher-ranked team. I think they're a better team. And I'm going to go Arizona State. I'm going to go to Herm Edwards over on the other side. So,
okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with Oregon, obviously, as well. I'm going to go a little bit different, right? I'm going to go USC this time, just by the slightest margin, though. I think that Slovis will be better. Just like who was talking about in the Iowa State, just like
Brock Purdy.
Yeah. Slovis had a similar year where he will start off it's a difference though, because Purdy was like way low and then a little bit of high and way low, where Slovis will have very slow starts in just the game. And then in the second half, he completely flips it over and either wins the game or just win the game or, just turns it on in the second half. So I think him putting that all together, they got some really good running backs over there that I really like. One of them being Carr. I believe he's still there, if I'm not mistaken. Stephen Carr. I think he's still there. And I like their rotation at running back. I think their defense is always a defense that they always get a good talent. So I'm gonna go USC this time.
I mean, I have them ranked second in that part of the conference. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, they're going to need Slovis to go back to 2019 form, but that's not out of the question.
Definitely, and I agree with that. Any surprise teams out of these two divisions?
I'm going to go Utah, only because they're stacked on defense again.
Okay. Oh, just Utah?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can give you. I'll go Stanford on the north part again because I think that they're due for a bounce back year, and I think their coach has been feeling some heat. So maybe I'll go Stanford. I don't think they'll beat Oregon, but they'll compete. Yeah. And I'll go Utah and Arizona again. I don't think Utah will win, but I think if you have a good defense like they do, they'll keep you in games. So
definitely, I agree. For me, I think Oregon State might be pulling something together there. I mean, I like their quarterback. I think that he, another year in that offense, he will be he's going to be a lot more comfortable and better in that offense. I believe last year he was a freshman, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they're going to be a lot better. They got some good pieces around them. I think they're going to be a team that surprise people a lot more than people may think. And obviously, I'm going to pick Utah all day, every day. I love Utah. I love their defense. They're like a second team to me. I just love Utah. If you guys watch this podcast in the past, I love Utah and what they're doing over there. And I really hope that Utah really takes the next step in their recruiting eventually, because they got some good coaching over there, man. They always producing some NFL players, and they've been producing a lot lately. So, I'm really rooting for them. All right, let's get to our last conference. I know I'm skipping a couple of conferences, but we do have to be on a short leash this week. We're gonna go through we're gonna watch the games next week because there's only 5 games and they're not the greatest, so we're not gonna really kind of go into that this week. But we're gonna talk about the SEC, obviously the big conference right there, and we're gonna go through the teams right there. Florida, in SEC East, they have Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. And obviously in the West, they got Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. All right, Ray, West and East, who you got?
I got Georgia in the East, and I got, of course, Alabama in the West.
Yeah, I agree. On both, I think it's pretty much a runaway with both of them. I can't see anybody else really being on that level. Maybe in the West, I can't even make that scenario. I'm not even going to make that scenario. It's going to be both of them.
I think that Texas A&M may be the second best team in this conference when it's all said and done. But because they play in the West with Alabama, they're not going to get by Alabama. They can get by Georgia, but they're not going to get by Alabama. So
and I was going to make that point that Alabama does have a fresh, he's not freshman, but they have a new quarterback in Bryce Young. We don't know much about him yet. He did play in some mock duty last year, but that's always when they're blowing people up. So he did get some mock duty last year. And then Texas A&M was probably their best bet to beat them in that division with another close LSU. Maybe if their defense played a lot better than last year. But I think Texas A&M had the closest chance to be in Alabama if Bryce Young don't put the pieces together right away. But dude, it's Alabama, man. They got that defense. They got the corners. They got, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they have a new running back that's gonna be in. They gotta have a new quarterback that's coming in. But it's Alabama, man. I'm not too low on them at all. They're gonna be still really good.
No, they are. I think their defense, what you're going to see now with Alabama is the last few years their defenses have been good, but their offense is what people have talked about on a week-to-week basis because of their wide receivers and their quarterbacks.
Correct.
But you're going to see a team that's going to dominate teams on defense this year.
I agree. 100% agree with that. All right, so Ray, do you have a surprise team in each conference?
I'm going to give you Texas A&M in the West because I think that they could surprise Alabama early if they get a break here and there. I'm not going to say they're going to beat them, and we'll see how they come how it looks when they come into real games. But for right now, I think Texas A&M is probably the second most talented team in this conference, so I'll go with them. And in the East, there's nobody in the East I could because Florida couldn't beat them last year. They're definitely not going to do it this year after all the talent they lost. They lost their whole receiving corps, their starting quarterback. That's not going to happen. I like Missouri. I like their team. They're a well-coached team. If I had to go with a team in that conference to compete with Georgia, I probably would go Missouri. But I don't think South Carolina, again, lost too many players last year.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody will beat Georgia in the East. I think Missouri is a team that will probably in the end will compete with them. And I think Alabama and Texas A&M is going to be really a good something to watch this year. I do.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to watch, those two teams for sure.
It is. I'm going to try and see if I can tell when they play right now, to be honest with you.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's honestly, I think it's early in the season. If I'm just going on the top of my head, I can look at it right now, actually.
Week. Oh, hold on.
They are,
October 9th.
October 9th, so that's week 5, 6?
5, 6.
So it's like kind of smack in the middle, actually.
It is. That's a good spot.
Yeah. It's
going to be a great game.
Yeah, tickets are $50 already, so.
Our Texas A&M, I probably wish it was a little bit earlier than that, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But But yeah, that's gonna be fun to watch. All right, so I agree with you with Missouri this year being in that surprise team in the East. I think they're like all for all the same reasons you said. They got a really talented team, and people I feel like nobody's talking about them enough, and they've been slowly building that team to be better each year, and you're starting to show it. They're starting to get a lot more NFL players getting into the NFL from that team, so they got the talent. Now they're starting to put it together. I think they're going to be one of those surprise teams. And in the West, and I hate to call them a surprise team, but LSU. I mean, that defense is going to be a lot better. In my opinion, I've been saying this since the offseason. I think their defense is going to get it together. I really like Miles Brennan. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to help them get to the next level. He is injured right now, so that is a concern for me. I think it was his arm, I believe. So that is a concern with me. I'm not sure where the process he is with that right now. But I think LSU is going to be a team that steps up and get to the next level, and they're going to surprise people because they surprised people last year for the wrong reasons. So I think they're going to get back on that ship where they surprise people in a better sense. And I think I love Ed Eldron, yes.
Orgeron, yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's a really phenomenal coach, and I think he's gonna really get this team back in shape. So
I saw their defense struggle a lot last year. I'm not used to seeing LSU's defense struggle like that until I see them step up and improve it. I don't think they're going to compete with Alabama. So
I'm not saying that, but they are like in a sense of a surprise team. I think they're going to be a surprise team because their defense is going to be a lot. I think they're going to have their defense is so talented. I can't see that happening again in a row. And we got James Little saying, I can't. Can we talk week 0? We can talk week 0 real quick. Let's do that real quick. All right, week 0, which is the first week of this one. We already talked about it. It's this Saturday. Ray, we got Nebraska versus Illinois. We got Connecticut versus Fresno State. We got Hawaii versus UCLA. UTEP versus New Mexico State, and Southern Utah versus San Jose State. So out of those 5 games, these are all this weekend. Which game are you looking more forward to?
Illinois, Nebraska.
Yeah, easy, easy.
Yeah.
I will say a sleeper game for me will be UTEP and New Mexico State. I think that's a sleeper game that you might want to tune into that. I mean, they're not like the most household.
I think it'll be okay. I think UTEP is a 10-point favorite.
Yeah.
I think the Hawaii UCLA could be a high scoring game if you like a lot of points scored.
Yeah. Sure. Definitely. So I agree with that. I need 3 locks. Who you got, Ray?
Locks? Well, I got Fresno State lock. I got UTEP as a lock, and I got Nebraska as a lock.
All right, there you go. You heard it from the man right there. So that's gonna do it for us today, guys. Apologize for the abrupt end to our podcast, but please make sure you check us out on all the platforms, InsideHatchets.com. And also make sure you check it out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we're watching right now live on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, because when you go in there, you can watch anytime that we're live. We go live every Wednesday. But if you can't watch it live, you can go back and watch it later. Put your comments in. Thank you for your comments, James, right there. So thank you. No, sir. Thank you. We appreciate you checking in. So you can check us out each week. If you're not sure when we're going to be on, or you can't follow up, just hit that notification bell and it will let you know when we're going to go live on air. So thank you for being on. This is Jerome Jones your humble host. We got Ray Roberts right over here. Thank you guys for checking us out, and we see you next week. Peace.